Oliver is a Great Western engine who works on the Little Western Line. He is always very familiar with the sights he sees everywhere he goes, every station and every coastline. Oliver's jobs on the line are pulling passengers and shunting trucks, particularly at Alsborough Junction. When Oliver came to Sodor, he wasn't very clever about handling trucks. But after a little accident with Scruffy, he soon got the hang of it. It was a bright morning at Alsborough Junction, and Oliver puffed in to sort out a few trucks. He saw Toad resting around the shed. "Morning, Toad," he puffed. "I thought you were working with Douglas." "The Fat Controller decided that I should work with you again, Mr. Oliver. He thinks you might need my help." "Really?" replied Oliver. He was surprised. "No, well, beggars can't be choosers. And it will be like old times again, won't it? After our last adventure." "Mr. Oliver, the Fat Controller has given us an important job to do, and it won't really be just for the day." "What's that then?" asked Oliver. Toad told Oliver that they were going to work at Knapford Yards to handle shunting. "The Fat Controller says that we have to leave this branch line for a long time. He trusts you with this important job, now that he knows how well you've done on this railway." "But this line is sort of like my home." Later, Oliver told Duck all about it. "I know you don't like this idea," he replied, "but it won't be all bad. Shunting at Knapford will be the same as shunting here. Besides, you can't stick around a branch line all your life." "Time to go, old boy," said his driver. Oliver tooted goodbye to Duck, and he and Toad set off for Knapford. When they arrived, Oliver found the Fat Controller waiting for him. "Because you are a fine engine shunting at Alsborough Yard," he said, "it's your job to arrange the trucks and coaches around here. Things are a little different in this yard, but I'm sure you'll be able to work things out." "Yes, sir," replied Oliver. But he wasn't so sure. Oliver began shunting the trucks and coaches into places. While he was working, he began to feel a different atmosphere, which was in the yard. It felt industrial, and the air was not as fresh as the air on the coastline. "Well, this doesn't feel very Great Western," he thought. As he reversed, he heard a whistle. "Ock, look out! I'm shunting here!" It was Donald. He was moving some ventilated vans into one of the sidings. "Sorry," puffed Oliver. "We don't get many engines rushing about in Alsborough Yard, either," he said to himself. Later, Oliver fetched some coaches for Henry's train. But he was doing it very slowly because he was thinking, "Fetching coaches. I've never usually shunted coaches instead of pulling them." Suddenly, he felt a big bump. "Oh!" he cried. "Oliver? What are you still doing here? My coaches should have been arranged by now. Hurry up!" Oliver wheezed steam. During break time, Oliver wasn't feeling very happy. "I don't think I can keep this up, Toad," he sighed.
Everything around here is so different to the branch line. In fact, every time I think about that, I start to lose focus.
Toad wanted to help. I think you should try to think of something else, Mr. Oliver, he replied. Think of something other than the branch line, and that might help you focus more. Oliver pondered for a moment. Just then, his driver appeared. It was time to work again. Oliver did try to think of something else, like Toad had said. He tried thinking about buildings. Then he tried thinking about open lines. But every time he thought about these things, it reminded him that some of these things were on the Little Western as well. It wasn't long before he began feeling sad again. Thomas arrived into the yard. He was dropping off his coacher so he could go on his break. "Hello, Oliver," he whistled cheerfully. Oliver didn't answer. Thomas was surprised. "Oliver," he tooted, "what's wrong?" Stammered Oliver. He didn't say another word and just went back to work. Thomas became curious by this. Oliver was arranging some red and blue trucks. Percy had to take them to Knapford Harbour. Then he had an idea.
Maybe I can bring a little Great Western spirit to this yard and arrange the trucks the way I usually do, he thought. Then I can do the job quickly this time.
So Oliver bumped the trucks hard. But the coloured trucks were not like those on the branch line. They haven't even seen him before. "Oi!" they shouted. "Who do you think you are bumping us? Yeah, we want Percy or Duck." "Quiet and look sharp," called Oliver. Then he bumped the trucks again and pulled them towards the station. Just then, the trucks bumped Oliver back, and he ran through the junction. Gordon saw this and was surprised. Oliver put on the brakes. He was in shock. Suddenly, James arrived and bumped into Oliver too. The trucks crashed into Gordon and lay all over the place. Gordon was blocked from the main line. He was cross. "You silly little engine," he wheezed. "This will delay me now." Oliver felt very silly and upset.
"I'm sorry,"
he said. Soon, the breakdown train cleared the mess. Oliver was taken to the shed by Thomas. "Why didn't you talk to me earlier about why you look sad?" he asked. "And what came over you when you had that accident? It doesn't hurt to talk about problems."
"Oh, I know,"
replied Oliver.
"Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas. It's just that I'm really fond of the branch line that Duck and I work on, and it became shocking when I had to leave it. I tried not to miss it by thinking of other things, but I can't help thinking about it. I'm away from it for a while, and I feel like it'll be that way permanently. I don't want that to happen."
Thomas puffed steam and smiled kindly. "I understand," he said. "Change can be shocking for anyone who is already happy with how their lives have always been. But change can also be good, you know."
"How do you mean?"
asked Oliver. "Well, right now I'm working on the main line as well. pulling a local train," explained Thomas. "My journeys don't look the same as those on my branch line, but they feel the same as long as I remember how I become really useful with my work. You may do the work in the way you know how, but you can also do it in a different place so it feels the same, like at home." Oliver started to feel better.
So I can still do things Great Western regardless of where I am?
"Yes," replied Thomas. "And doing your work in a new place can feel good because it's a good change of scenery." Then the Fat Controller arrived. "Oliver, I can see that you don't seem fit to work in this yard, but you still need to be in a place to help with shunting, so I'm sending you to work at Wellsworth." Oliver suddenly became pleased by this.
Wellsworth is just like Arsborough Junction, he chuffed. I would be glad to work there. Thank you, sir. The place may be similar, but I could still do my way of things there and be really useful.
Thomas smiled for his friend. "And maybe one day you and Toad will return to your branch line just like I do if I'm not needed here." Soon, Oliver and Toad had a good time working at Wellsworth. Oliver arranged the trucks on time for the other engines. Some of these trucks knew Oliver and warned the other trucks in the yard to be careful not to cause him trouble. Sometimes Doug would pass by and Oliver would tell him all about his progress in the yard. Whenever Oliver leaves the branch line, he will continue to miss it. But ever since that talk with Thomas, he remembers that he can be a really useful engine in his own way, no matter where he goes.